It's July 14th, 2025. Bitcoin in the house. Team Bitcoin. And if you haven't already joined, now's the time. I'm providing you the latest Bitcoin news so that hopefully you can profit off that. Starting out with Odell Beckham. In 2021, he was an NFL player who basically said, I want my contract in Bitcoin. And at the time, it was $750,000, and he got it. He got criticized so harshly at the time. He was an idiot. He didn't know what he was doing. Well, guess who's laughing now? And that's kind of the post that he did on X. He's almost double up of his cost basis. And good for him. He saw something coming early, and he's profiting handsomely from it. Next up, Bitcoin hits all-time highs. As I mentioned, 123,000. This is crypto week. And that's what this article is highlighting. What that's essentially means. The U.S. lawmakers are gearing up this week to potentially pass regulatory changes that could bolster industrial demand of crypto. Now, the United States of America, we want to lead in something, and this is good news. There's the Genius Act that I talked about, which actually I misspoke the other day. It's covering stablecoins and the framework around that. And I want to give you my thoughts on stablecoins. Now, I don't personally trade them. And I take that back. I've had them a few times over the years, but essentially it's backed by the dollar, or it's projected that it will be, and certain companies under this act are going to be able to issue their own coins. Think Amazon coin or Walmart coin. So they could potentially give this back to you in rewards, but it kind of skirts the credit card companies. So it's a benefit to transparency, the speed of transactions. You'll be able to transact instantaneously and see that money come out of one account and another. I have to laugh because I actually run a small business and I get checks all the time. And I'm trying to find my wad of them, but I have I could fan them all out for the first half of the year. They're a pain in the butt. Who writes checks? I still receive a lot of them. So the public's using them. Credit cards, you don't get your funds instantaneously. I know on my accounting system, it's 1 to 3 days. Just frustrating, right? I want those funds now. I've already done the work, and that's what stablecoins provide. But they're still backed potentially by the dollar, and we're still printing more dollars. So my concern, it doesn't solve the problems that Bitcoin is solving. Bitcoin has a finite supply of 21 million. Never going to be any more. A lot of those are lost. So in my opinion, when people say store of value, that's what they're talking about. We know the rules with Bitcoin. We know the framework. We know there's not going to be more. It is going to be the scarcest thing on planet Earth, and everybody seems to want it. And that goes into these ETF inflows that continue to just crush it. On Thursday, we had the largest ETF inflow, I believe, ever. 1.18 billion. So ETF just stands for exchange traded funds. There's quite a few of them that revolve around Bitcoin. The one I predominantly trade is IBIT, IBIT. And it trades like a stock. You can buy it on Robinhood or whatever broker you choose. Beautiful stuff. Now, this particular analyst projects that Bitcoin could hit 125K in the next month or two. Well, now it could hit that tomorrow, to be quite honest. Who really knows? But what I want you to wrap your mind around is a superior financial asset, not necessarily an investment. And the idea is to profit from it. But if you're in the dollar system and within the United States of America, or your country is backed by the dollar, wow, I'd be concerned because our debts keep skyrocketing. I saw President Trump the other day saying he's trying to save the dollar. He knows we're kind of in a mess right now, and it's taken over 50 years to create it. It's not going to get fixed overnight. And then you have the uncertainty of the trade wars, and that creates a flood of money to risk off assets. And that's why I find Bitcoin very funny hitting all-time highs, because it's always been the risk on asset. The risk on asset. So there's this aha moment where people are starting to realize, maybe it's not as risky as everyone thinks. It will be volatile. Granted, that's not going to change, but that should smooth out over time. Now, under the crypto week, there's two bills. The Genius Act is one of them. Let's take a look at what that consists of. Basically, federal framework for regulating stablecoins. And then there's the Clarity Act. Proposed bill, basically who's doing what within government as far as cryptocurrencies. But that's all getting hashed out this week. Additionally, we have even more retail demand is now outpacing Bitcoin supply. Wow. Now, I've focused on the ETFs and how the exchange traded funds are just eating up the Bitcoin supply far more than have been issued daily. I believe it's 420 new coins a day, and just the ETF alone are eating that supply up. I just said 1.18 billion on Thursday. This analyst is saying that retail demand now is outstripping Bitcoin supply. So that explains really why the prices keeps going up, because the demand, there's only so many coins, right? I think back to when the Xbox would release their new hardware, and people, or Call of Duty, or Halo in my time, and people line up at GameStop or Walmart or Target before the store would open, and then they would just storm the store because there's only so many of them, and if they didn't show up and camp out on the front yard there, they weren't going to get one. And Bitcoin is a little different in the sense as you'll be able to get one, it's just what are you going to pay? And that's the cycle and that we've been going through the last 18 years and what people are having difficulty wrapping their mind around. I encourage Bitcoin to go down to 50,000. I don't know if it will now, right? That seems a little extreme, but I would cash out of one of my assets and buy as much as I could at this point. Next up, I can't even pronounce the country name. Kazakhstan considers investing in the National Reserve in Bitcoin. One of my first videos talks about nation states and how they're starting to put that on their balance sheet using taxpayer revenue as a potential hedge against inflation, to bolster their economy, to have sound investments, and obviously diversification is key. But if you're not on the crypto boat, specifically Bitcoin, I don't know what that looks like for the nations that don't adopt it. And so there's going to be a gold rush. People are going to storm not to California, but to Bitcoin. And when those nation states pull the trigger, that race gets really interesting. And that's when I get really excited about doing these videos, because you get a Saudi Arabia that starts buying it up, or potentially even a Russia. And I only say Russia because I'm looking at the map here. That's why I was kind of shocked. I actually had to see, okay, where is this country? Well, it's just south of Russia. Okay, they should have, generally speaking, some ideologically ideals that are aligned as far as that region of the world. And if this country is adopting it, and then that country adopts it, then that country, and it just starts snowballing. So I see that in our future. Finally, where do I see Bitcoin going from here? Analysts price targets, I know 120 when I first started doing the videos. That was kind of the consensus. 140 to 160, one of the analysts was projecting by year end. I don't think that's outrageous. I know quite a few people said 200. I think that's kind of aggressive, but you get a short squeeze. It could happen. But I would rather see it go to like the 140, 150 range. And the only reason I say that is if we get up to 200, 250 by year end, we're going to have a massive pullback, and it's going to be a shakeout, and it's going to scare people like it has in the past. If we do a modest lift, something that maybe is 2x what the Dow, or 2x what the NASDAQ does, then we're not going to have that massive pullback. However, the other side of me says, okay, let's do the run up to the 200,000, 220, 250, and then have the massive pullback so that I'm ready for it and I can pull the trigger by selling a house and putting essentially everything into it. So, which sounds crazy to most people, but to me it doesn't sound crazy at all. So with that, Crypto week. Let's celebrate. Let's go. And until we meet again tomorrow, take care.